The Suffering for the Xbox is a third or first-person action horror game. If I played this in 2004 upon release, I probably would have played a lot more of it in third person. The game feels great either first person or third, and I preferred to play it as a first-person shooter. You play as Torque, a recent death row inmate. While being walked to your cell, there's an earthquake, and supernatural horrors are released. The story is told to you as the game progresses through a series of flashbacks. Your character seemingly was possessed by a demon when he killed his family, or perhaps it's just a metaphor for the anger in his soul. You travel through many spooky locations, first through the prison itself, where there are people you can interact with. There will be the voice of your wife telling you to help the strangers, or the voice of a demon telling you to kill them. Some of these were very funny. This one in particular, with the filthy immigrant drug addict.
Yes, come in, I'll not lock you up. The name is Sergei. Wait, are you really there? Or maybe I am dreaming again. No? No, you real, huh?
He's a filthy immigrant.
So friendly.
He's a disgusting addict.
Don't you wonder about that? What makes you? This poor soul could not handle what he saw in the ink. Tell me what you see, Talk.
I don't know, it gave me a bit of a chuckle. Some of the morality of the game seems confused. You run into a guard who tells you, I seems to get along with the inmates more than the other COs, as if there's some sort of inherent moral superiority of convicted criminals and death row inmates like the pedophile. It seemed weird. Seems like the morality of the game's a little bit confused. And there is a good or bad morality decision thing that determines the outcome of the game. So if you decide to help the people you interact with, you get the good ending. There's neutral, you could just let them be, or you can kill them. As you advance through the game, eventually there is a meter that will let you transform into some sort of hell beast, which I never really used. I didn't need to, so I didn't rely on it, and I believe the more you use it, the more deformed and twisted the monster becomes, the more moves are unlocked in its melee moveset. I didn't use it hardly at all. There is a point very late in the game where I believe you have to use it, or at least that was the only way I could get around this situation, was by using the transformation. The atmosphere is very spooky. I really liked playing through the game in the first person. Everything's interactive. You can pick up the phones and occasionally you'll get a busy signal or you'll get some spooky otherworldly message. There's many references to different horror movies sprinkled throughout the game. Stan Winston was a part of the team. He designed the monsters. Fans of science fiction and horror movies will know that name very well. Each one of the monsters is based on a method of execution. So your knife-limbed monsters that you see early on represent the guillotine. There's burning alive, being buried alive, being chained up and drowned is one of the ways. Firing squad. You start to get the picture on your own, but there's some bonus material on the game that goes into the creation of the game. So if you watch any other YouTube review of this game, they're going to have all that information, which is part of the bonus features. I would say just get the game and watch the bonus features. I did appreciate how interactive everything was. Before I had a firm grasp of the morality system, I accidentally gassed a guard. Oops! I found a control panel, flipped a switch, and someone inside of the gas chamber got gassed. And I was like, oh, oops, I'm gonna quit just interacting with everything without taking a look at it first. The game never drags. When you start to get just about everything you can out of the prison, the story moves along to where you need to get to the old insane asylum because there's some sort of electrical disturbance interfering with the radio. And you need to get to the radio to contact the Coast Guard to get a ship out there to rescue the staff and inmates. So then you move to the abandoned insane asylum where you run into the 1930s doctor who's being projected through old film reel projectors.
my performance on you, as it were, will be something I shall thoroughly enjoy.
There's a little bit of puzzle solving sprinkled through the game. If you get to a point where you can't make any progress, look for a switch, look for a block puzzle. I really enjoyed it. It didn't feel like there was too many puzzles, and it didn't feel like there were too few puzzles. The game definitely leans more towards action than horror. This is not a Resident Evil. There's no ammo management. The game never drags. It keeps you moving, and as soon as you've explored an area thoroughly, you're off to the next location. So after you do that, and then you're off to the lighthouse, and then the pier, and then, so the game moves along at a pretty good pace. You go through a bit of the island's history. There's a little bit of World War II bunker thrown in there, so you see some ghosts from then. There's a slave ship crash, so you see a little bit of that. All in all, I really enjoyed the game. I picked this up for $3 at a Goodwill, disc and case, no manual, and I got to chapter 17 of 20 when the disc would no longer read. So I went to the local game shop, slapped $1 on the counter, and had them resurface it. The game looked pretty good, but it still would not load the next area, so I hopped on eBay and bought a loose copy for $11. So now I'm into the game for $15, and I feel that I have not overpaid. For a copy of the game with the disc and case, that's still an okay price, but that's not as exciting as the really cool $3 Goodwill find. I was very excited to have this. This is one of those games that I did want to play back in the day, and I remember looking at it longingly through the glass case at my local Meijer, thinking, yeah, I should get this game, before deciding to get something else. However, now that I've played the game, I've really enjoyed it. The game is playable on the Xbox 360, which is how I played the game, because my primary original Xbox started having issues with the DVD drive. Didn't have any problems. There was one instance where after failing a sequence, I had to reload it a few times, and there was a glitch, but other than that, the game played flawlessly on the Xbox 360. If you are an owner of the original Xbox or the Xbox 360, this is a title that deserves to be on your shelf. I did a little bit of poking around because I do want to play the sequel, The Suffering, The Ties That Bind, and that does not appear to be compatible with the Xbox 360, so keep that in mind. I'm probably going to end up buying the sequel for the PlayStation 2. That being said, I really enjoyed this game. I'm glad to add it to my collection, so keep this series in mind when it starts to become fall and you're looking for that perfect October-themed game. The Suffering is something that was pretty popular when it came out, but is not really talked about today, which I'm not sure why that is, because this was a really rock-solid video game. So I would highly recommend this to anyone who's a fan of either genre. First/third-person action shooters, or fans of horror games. This game scratches both of those itches very well.
Where's this dripping coming from? Yo, who that?